Australia is supposed to be a free market, classical liberal capitalist country. That stuff is supposed to mean something. It's supposed to mean that we agree that the best way to create wealth for everyone is not to build a huge central government that controls everything like communists and socialists do, but to keep government small and let individuals be free to start businesses and compete. And by doing that, we get everyone to be the best they can be at the things that they're the best at, and we're all wealthier and happier for it. That's liberalism. The Australian Labor Party used to be a party that at least had a couple of grown-up factions that understood that. But the Labor Party of today isn't like that. I don't know if it's because they're a little too close to China. Maybe there's a reason that the Premier of China calls Albo the handsome boy. But if you had any doubts that Albo and his treasurer Jimbo were two of the most radically left-wing leaders this country's ever had, you can doubt no more. Because this week we had the news that they want to get their little mitts on the country's savings account. Australia, like a lot of countries, has what's called a sovereign wealth fund. It's a pool of money that's like a savings account that we invest in a portfolio of things just like you might invest or own super or savings. It was set up by John Howard and Peter Costello during their time in power. They were trying to do the right thing and invest the proceeds from the sale of some big assets the government had owned, like Telstra, instead of spending the money like most governments would. Peter Costello went on to be the chair of this future fund for many years after his time as treasurer, and he always said politicians must be locked out of the cash box and must never be allowed anywhere near the fund's investment decisions and strategy. The future fund can only be spent once, he said, then it's gone. The fund has grown from $60 billion to be worth more than $230 billion today. That's since it was set up in 2006. So across just 18 years, it's gone from 60 to 230 billion. And that's because of good investment management, handled by professionals seeking to maximise returns, not playing games with some woke agenda. Even 230 billion, by the way, isn't huge given the size and natural wealth of Australia, nowhere near the size of Singapore's $1 trillion fund for its 5 million people, or Norway's $2 trillion fund for its 10 million people. They're really smart countries. But it still works out to be about $9,000 for every man, woman and child in Australia, so nothing to sneeze at. And that money is supposed to be managed independently, investment decisions made on the basis of what will get us the best returns in the global markets. But Jim Chalmers wants the keys to the cash box. He's an economics and finance genius. Just ask him. He wants to dictate the investment priorities. And these priorities, surprise, surprise, align with Labor's political agenda. So instead of making investments in proven business and projects and assets that are likely to get the best return for us based on what the free market's doing, he wants the focus on, you guessed it, the transition to a net zero economy and residential housing. Instead of the fund aiming at making as much money as possible and contributing to the cost of government that way, it'll now become a kind of direct investment platform aimed at Labor's pet projects. It's kind of like handing your super portfolio over to your hippie, greeny, woke neighbour to manage for a while. Don't be surprised if it's all gone in a few years. Chalmers says he won't tip into the fund's capital directly, not at least for 8 to 10 years, just play with the returns a little bit. But by telling it what to invest in, you can bet we're not going to get the returns we should or the growth that we should. And the risk of losses will become much higher. With the cost of the energy transition to unsustainable and unreliables like wind and solar expected to blow out by a few $100 billion by 2030, I'd say we've just let the kids have the keys to the safe. Joining me now to discuss all of this and more, Alexandra Marshall from Spectator Flat White and Spectator TV. Alexandra, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Damian.
So, Jim Chalmers getting his little grubby hands on the purse. What do you got to say about that one?
Well, this is, Jim, I'd quite like to reimagine capitalism Chalmers, which just means socialism if you think about it. Look, if you ever group together a large amount of cash, the government is going to find a way to get into it. That's they can't help themselves. Like kids with a chocolate shop or a cookie jar, they're going to break in. And of course, we're in a situation right now where all of Labor's favorite projects, which are renewable and green energy projects, have just lost a major donor in the US, where all of Joe Biden's free cash for a green transition to Australian companies is gone. And so now, of course, Chalmers and the government are going to have all these people in their ear saying, oh, can we just have this? Can you just invest in that? How can we do this? And of course, Chalmers is going, yeah, we've got this massive load of money that we didn't help create, but we're going to definitely spend it on the wrong things. And the one thing we're going to need that future fund for, Damian, is our defence. We really need that cash to be growing right now, not wasted on this folly of renewable energy, which is, it's collapsing around the world. And Chris Bowen, even when he was surrounded by all those people at the COP29 saying nuclear, he went, no, I think we'll just ignore the world and we'll just continue on this net zero path and we'll use the future fund to fund it.
Yeah, look, I've got no faith in these guys anymore. I'm actually terrified by what's motivating them and what the hell they're up to. Like, this is probably, we've had Labor governments before that've been okay, but this is something like out of another planet. I'm terrified of these people. And Jim Chalmers, I've never seen anybody, the guy's ego, I've never seen anybody actually put in writing, actually put in print that he thinks he can remake capitalism. Like all the thinkers of the 19th and 20th century, with their socialist ideas and everything. Oh no, they couldn't do it, but Jimbo from Logan, he's going to fix everything. Not that there's anything wrong with Logan, love Logan, neighbouring city to Brisbane. All right, so
Alexandra, dig me out of the hole here. Let's talk about something else.
Let's go overseas. Sorry, go on.
He sat Jim Chalmers down and said to him, okay, of all the other people who've reimagined capitalism, which one do you like? Who do you think did it the best? And that'd be a very revealing conversation.
Yes, it would be. It'd be a fascinating conversation. He's welcome to come on here. We'll have that conversation anytime. I'm sure he'll take me up on it. We'll get you on for that one if he ever says yes. So, Alexandra, another story you guys are covering on Spectator is this: what's happening with good old Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear, or formerly from Top Gear. A bit of a highlight. He's having a bit of a political moment in the UK. Tell us what's going on there.
Well, this is another form of socialism, Damian, and of course, another pile of cash in private hands, and that is the farms of the UK, where there's a lot of these large farms that feed the entire nation. And Labor's gone, gee, we've got this massive debt we need to deal with. Let's just steal it from the farmers. And that has gone about as well as you would expect. All the peasants and their pitchforks have rocked up outside Parliament, and they are causing a huge amount of drama for the government. It's all about inheritance tax. And it's so bad, Damian, that people have had to try and argue in favour of inheritance tax for the farmers. And now people are saying, why do any of us pay inheritance tax? So that, Labor might be responsible for dismantling the entire inheritance tax system in the UK. But what is interesting is Jeremy Clarkson, everyone's favourite from Top Gear. He has that show, Clarkson's Farm. It's immensely popular over on Amazon. And he's become the political cheerleader for farmers. So just like Donald Trump is rich, but he cheers for the working class, Jeremy Clarkson's rich, but he cheers for the farmers. And they're calling him the new Farage, and they want him to be the next Prime Minister of the UK.
Well, maybe he should join forces with Farage, and the two of them could save us from this apparently Stalinist, communist hell that Keir Starmer seems to be taking the UK in the direction of. Again, one of the craziest Labor governments I think I've ever seen.
Yes, well, he's lost his two-tier Keir label, which he hated, but now he's Starmer the Stalinist. So, I mean, he got his wish. He's been rebranded, but now they're talking about the Labor government being just out and proud socialists. And what's really weird and disturbing is watching all of these left-wing journalists and how petty and small-minded and greedy they are. All they want is their hands on other people's money, and yet they would never spend a single cent looking after the farming land of the UK. They are appalling people, and it has really become a watershed moment for UK politics, where people can really see this left-wing class for what they are. They are not virtuous, they are evil.
No, and they're right through the media, which is why we do this show, to present the other side, because all we're getting from journalists, particularly here in Australia, is one side, one worldview. The news from the perspective of one ideology and one worldview that's infected all of the journalism class of Australia. And the self-righteousness and lack of self-reflection around that is particularly concerning, and that's why we've got to do this. And that's why we keep doing it. So, Alexandra, you keep doing it. I'll keep doing it.
Peasant class farmer journalist here,
That's
Damian.
us. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely peasant class. Definitely no $1.2 billion of cash flapping around here. We might actually maybe get paid in a couple of years. You never know. Alexandra Marshall, thanks very much for joining us once again. Spectator Flat White editor and also Spectator TV host.
Thank you so much for having me, Damian.
Here at the other side, we do not get more than $1 billion of taxpayer money like the ABC does to waste on fun stuff that we and our friends like while ignoring the public that we're supposed to serve. We have to rely on your support of this show. But I also hate asking for charity. So we've done a deal with what I think is the best VPN service in the world so that you can support this show and get excellent value for yourself in return. Private Internet Access VPN is a virtual private network. You download their app onto your phone, your TV, your computer, whatever you use, and it'll route all your data through a different server location so that you can't be tracked by the prying eyes of big government and big corporations. It keeps you and your family truly safe, and it will not massively slow down your internet speeds or make it harder to use your devices like some VPNs do. Private Internet Access, PIA VPN, is quick and easy to install, and once you've downloaded it, that's pretty much it. You can sign up using our special Other Side code for less than $3 a month. Unbelievable. That is a whopping 83% off the normal price, and you'll get the first 4 months free, and you will be helping our show a lot. So get onto it, piavpn.com/otherside to get the special deal. And get this, if you've got a Netflix account, by signing on through a server in another country to Netflix, like the US, for example, you'll get access to that country's library of Netflix shows on your account as if you were in that country, which is also great if you want Netflix in a different language or something. piavpn.com/otherside. If you like that clip, there's more where that came from in our full show, The Other Side. You can watch it right here, the latest episode. And please subscribe to our channel by pressing the subscribe button right here or down here. And remember to click that notification bell too. It all helps. Join us and become part of The Other Side.